Hi, my name is Noah Meir. I am the CEO of the Charney Forum for New Diplomacy. With us today is Professor Michael Williams, Director of International Relations Program and Clinical Professor of International Relations at NYU. Thank you for joining us today. Can you share us some of your thoughts about the international arena pre-coronavirus and how you see it shaping out now?
The international arena prior to coronavirus was already starting to come apart at the seams, given that the United States has been pursuing an America First strategy, which has abandoned its traditional leadership role globally. So it's not been getting along as well with many of its allies, starting trade wars with rivals like China, and all of this was creating a more tumultuous international environment. And the onset of coronavirus has only worsened the nationalistic impulses in the United States and elsewhere. And now with the coronavirus, what's happened is it's accelerated this trend. The US isn't coming out of it looking particularly good as a positive leader. China has warped reality in terms of what happened with Corona in its country and is now trying to recoup that position by sending lots of aid. But what we see is that despite all of the social media that's available, international society seems to be fracturing along nationalistic lines. And so despite all the connectivity, it seems that countries are more and more isolated and in a competitive position.
What do you foresee as the potential implications on globalization and international relations and diplomacy?
So the coronavirus could have some positive and some negative implications for the future of international relations and diplomacy. On the positive side, let's start there first, it could certainly help to bring countries together. The coronavirus highlights the fact that many of the most pressing challenges that the world faces in the 21st century need to be solved collectively. So coronavirus is one of those that no matter what one country is doing individually, it really can't help stem the tide without cooperation and working together with other countries. And so rather than competing to get supplies, sourcing them with each other, rather than seeking to be nationalists and isolate ourselves, engaging to find a solution to monitor borders and to help address the problem, that would be a good positive outcome. And it's something that we're going to need to be seen done in the future on issues like climate change, on migration. These are problems that require really joint common solutions. On the downside, it may just increase nationalistic impulses. It may further the beliefs of those who think that America should be first, or China should be first, or Hungary should be first, and therefore distancing people, pulling away from each other, creating boundaries and borders. In Europe, this may see the reemergence of national borders and sort of the dissolution of the Schengen zone, for example. So there's both potentially positive and negative outcomes to this. And certainly for diplomacy, it's going to be more important than ever for countries to try and come together to overcome those impulses and pursue the first more positive possibility.
Do you foresee that there's going to be a continued weakening of government as a result of the coronavirus, alongside the strengthening of non-government actors?
The coronavirus will definitely have implications for the role of government and the role of the civil sector in international relations. It seems to be at the moment really strengthening the role of government in that it seems to be national governments that are providing the solutions to people, not international organizations like the United Nations and World Health Organization. So even though the World Health Organization is attempting to coordinate, it's really not seen as the principal actor. So Corona, in this sense, seems to strengthen the role of the national government. At the same time, there's a lot of other non-governmental organizations that have been working on healthcare policy, such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that are seen as stalwart actors in this area that are offering a lot of insight and expertise. And so we may be seeing more of a trust and an interest in those actors in facilitating solutions, but they're ultimately going to be provided by government.
What opportunities do you identify as a result of the coronavirus?
It has been said that every crisis presents opportunities. There's certainly a lot of downsides to the coronavirus, but there are some things that we might be able to come away from this more positively. First of all is the ability to use technology to bring people together. And so we've really seen an emergence of video teleconferencing and of social media in some ways as a very positive platform, and other times not so positive. But hopefully we can use the positive aspects of social media to bring the world together, to increase connectivity and understanding. In turn, this may help us meet some of our climate goals, right? So one of the things we're also seeing globally is that the reduction of travel, the reduction of commuting is really helping to clean up the particulates in the atmosphere, making the world a healthier place. And so we may, again, through technology, see that we can do things that we don't have to necessarily fly around the world for. It might not be as much fun always. It doesn't mean that there will be no more travel, but it may allow us to rethink more innovative solutions and also allow us to reach people who previously were left out. And so we can expand technological access, expand internet access, then we can reach populations that don't have the ability to travel, but we can still get out there to engage with those populations, whether it's for education, communication, healthcare, etc.
What steps and measures do you think we can take as a society in order to increase our resilience in such a time of crisis?
Resilience is a major factor in survivability and in the ability to bounce back from a really negative experience in life. And this can be on a personal level, a traumatic incident that happens, but also collectively as a society. And ultimately, it comes down to the individuals to try and work to become more resilient. And so this really is all about self-care. It's about limiting your exposure to negativity, particularly what we see in the news and on social media. It's about recognizing what you do have and what you need to be grateful for. And so it's really just about each and every person sort of taking our own responsibility to contribute positively towards a solution to the problem, but then understanding where this problem is as traumatic and difficult as it is in the wider scope of things. And many people have much to be thankful for despite what's happening. And so it's really about trying to focus on your own self-care, whatever that is, whether it's getting out for walks, whether it's reading a book and unplugging from the digital world, maintaining your health and connectivity through that digital world with positive influences, is how we can then all together build individual resilience, which will allow the society to bounce back more quickly after a collective trauma.
What advantage do you think that the Charney Forum for New Diplomacy has as a hybrid of academia and a practical hands-on program?
So the Charney Forum for New Diplomacy has a number of advantages for the world we live in today. The fact that it's a non-academic program based at a university merges together best practices and scholarship with outreach that goes beyond what's often known as the ivory tower. And so it's really applied knowledge. Also, the fact that it's based at a university, but it's global in its scope and its ambition. It's about getting out to private sector, public sector, other universities to engage the different actors. And so that's a major benefit in terms of its sort of scope, its transnational positioning. And then finally, new diplomacy itself is a fascinating topic and really hits on where we are today, that we have all of this connectivity, which can be used positively or negatively. And new diplomacy is about thinking, and the Charney Center is about thinking about how we can apply these technologies to bring people together in a positive way to find common solutions to common problems. And so that, I think the Charney Forum for New Diplomacy is well positioned to make a positive difference in the coming years.